doesn't matter to me.
Hey, we're here. We're live. Mark Kosoglow, one of my favorite people in our world, maybe in my professional career. You're just a great guy to be around. Welcome
Damn,
to.
dude.
Hey, we've been going to these events for a while. I'm trying to think back. I'm like, it was 2015,
I think so. Yeah, we've been
2015.
grinding since 2015 together, man.
I have a kid who was born in 2015, and he's like, big. So, welcome to Sales Operator Series. It's great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great, my man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
You look good.
I'm just trying. I'm getting
Oh,
older.
it's showing.
You're staying the same age, dude. You're timeless and endless.
I have a great skincare routine.
The skin is what do they call it now? It's I'm gonna mess it up. It's like juicy. I don't know. Your skin looks great.
Hey, thanks, man.
Your setup is good. You told me you just moved to or recently moved to South Carolina?
Yeah, man. I'm a Southerner at heart, born in Cleveland, or born in Texas, but I lived most of my life in like Cleveland, Tennessee, Chattanooga area, which I know you guys are super familiar with. And
Right there.
then I did most of my middle and high school years in Greenville, Mississippi, and then somehow I made my way north for college for a long time, and did Seattle for a little bit, and now I'm back in the roots, brother.
That's awesome. And you're leading teams. It's fun to see how your career, just from afar, not that we are, that involved, but like, man, you've built so many cool teams. You've been at so many great companies. I want to dive right in because our world, the world that we have lived in, is changing so quickly. And I feel like you've been really right in the driver's seat, front seat, whatever seat you want to be on that bus. When you look at like the last 12 months, what's the thing that you would say, man, I could not have predicted how managing sales teams, managing revenue orgs would have changed this quickly?
I think the thing that's changed the most in the last 12 months for me is I think there's kind of two streams happening right now. There's the normal people stream of like, I'm trying to figure out how to use AI to do this. And like, I prompt it with this, and I watch a YouTube video or something, and I kind of learn as I go. And then there's this like dark arts underground genius movement that like I am lucky enough to be in a couple WhatsApp groups, and I absolutely do not respond or post anything in there to show my complete ignorance, where they are doing stuff that is so outside what normal people even think about.
Yeah.
That it's gonna, at some point, these two worlds are diverging so fast that I don't know where success ends up lying. If it lies in the casual, like I have my day job and I'm trying to figure out how to use AI on my own, versus I have an engineering background and I'm a super technical, and I've been waiting for my entire career to like dig into something that I can get an edge over these people that just understand how to deal with people and stuff better than I do.
You're bringing up two things in that. And one is that I see this also, and I also I would give myself a passenger seat of this, where you see elements of our work that is can be radically changed to a level that I didn't think was possible, even a couple quarters ago. And then you see like what actually was really quick. I think there's like three. There's like what you're calling the normal people. I actually think are like not the normal people, if that makes sense. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I think there's like the actual normal people who are like, I make pictures with ChatGPT and like I like Google, I use that to like search. And then you have the people who are like probably have crossed the chasm into like, this is part of my day to day. I rely on this. I have some systems set up. And then you have like the dark art people. So I actually think there's still like a really big laggard group that's like not even relying to the level that you're kind of like talking about. I don't know if you see that.
Hey, give me 1 second. My microphones, do I sound different now?
You do. It's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool if it's cool for you. I still see
My,
you.
my, I can see you, but I don't know what's going on with my audio. All right. Anyway, I
You
think
sound
it's
better now. It was like a little echoey for a second, and now I feel like you're maybe back on AirPods.
I'm back on AirPods, so let me just stay on AirPods then. All right. Ask me again because my audio went out for like 10 seconds.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep riffing because there was another thing I wanted to get to there. You mentioned like the divergence of people who are like in the dark art, they're doing things
Yeah.
that are crazy. And then you talked about like the separation of that, which is like people who are good with people and like
Yeah.
who are great with like, I'm assuming here, but like the relationships and, being influencing and charismatic and caring about people and having people respond to them. Like unpack that because I actually think this is a really interesting career separation for folks now of the technical excellence versus the human element.
Yeah, I think there's like this. There's a couple things. One, there's people's whose job mainly is working on projects, and then there's people's whose job is mainly working on people. And
Yeah.
like, if I'm an engineer, yeah, you deal with people, but your real job is to put fingers on keyboard and pump out code. When you're in sales, yeah, you got to use CRM and stuff like that, but your real job is to talk to people. And so, like,
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing is like, what kind of job have you had in your career? What kind of way do you think about working, and where are you good or not? Right. I think that's where when I say like you have people that are good with people and people that aren't. I don't necessarily mean that like an engineer isn't good with people. There's
Right.
engineers that are awesome and they're great leaders. They do all this awesome stuff, but their primary job responsibility is project based versus people based. And so in sales, I don't think that you could have been successful doing project based kind of work in sales because you would have avoided and not been good enough with the people to get that to happen. And then the second thing is that I think now that AI is coming in, there actually is a way, especially like down market transactional sales, to
Yeah.
really have like a person that doesn't understand people stuff. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is the distinction on the people part to me comes down to there's two types of people interactions. There's your internal type where it's like, hey, Brian, like, let me rally you to this goal, like, let me coach you and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the external people part, which is, hey, Brian, you have a budget and you know what? Like, you don't want to use it or you want to use it on somebody else. And I actually have to change your thinking and get you to move over to a different way of thinking to be successful at my job. That's two totally different things. An internal person who's an ally and then an
Yeah.
external person who in some way is an enemy. And so I think like that's like how I think about it is project based versus people based. And then people based is, are you internal or are you external? And what I can see now is people that are project based and they can do stuff with people externally now with AI, whereas before that was never a path that they could have a lot of influence on, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's almost like, I think about that level. And maybe like I don't want to like lead the witness here because I think you may be even thinking about a different thing than me, but those project-based people who can go find elements of the people influencing process. Man, that's like a weird way. But like they find those like you said, like a PLG motion, or it's almost like I keep I keep equating it in our world of like consumer companies are really good at this. They're really good at this on like
Mm,
how do you influence people on Instagram and how do you get people to interact with you? And like we just see the content or we see like someone making a video or like whatever, a cool, reel. And it's like, no, this is like selling you stuff. You just don't realize it's selling you stuff and
yeah.
it's getting you into this motion. And I think that consumerification of the buying process, the awareness process can absolutely be like engineered and it can be, you know, steered in ways that I think people didn't realize before or maybe underappreciated.
Yeah. And I think that like there obviously it's been happening for a while, like that B2C motion has been moving into B2B more and more because people buy in their personal life and that's how they end up trying to buy in their professional life. I think that the B2C thing is a very interesting part of this conversation from this standpoint is when I think most consumer brands are thinking about how to do that stuff, they're not thinking about a specific person, they're thinking about a tranche of people, which makes it a project. It's not that personal thing versus as B2B enterprise sellers, it's Mark talking to Brian specifically. Therefore, I can't like create like a TikTok video that's going to work with a million Brians because there's only one Brian and one Mark and one situation that we're talking about right now. But I think that there's aspects of that are starting to that have been bubbling up, and now we're seeing some acceleration of that with what these project based AI, really wizards are doing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What do you think kind of a veering, because you said a couple of things that I feel like I'm like emotionally responding to, but how does that change going back to like your internal people? And so the way that people are selling is changing. I still believe, and I'm curious if you believe that like the way we influence on the external, at the end of the day, the Brian and Mark relationship where I'm trying to, I don't want to say convince, but I'm trying to influence you to say, why pick ambition or Brian? Why pick, our thing over others? Why do it now? Like, that's still happening, and in some way, I
Mm.
feel like that part is almost becoming more important in a counterintuitive way because there's, like, infinite options and infinite other stuff of, like, what you could do and what you could choose and where you could spend time, resources, effort. And, so on one hand, I'm like, man, the external, really like the sales chops is like back. It's like if you're really good at
Yeah.
connecting with a person, it like really matters. How do you think that is applying for that internal part of your chart before where I think a lot of folks are starting to like, how can I automate the practice, how to automate the coaching, how to automate the training? You guys
Mm.
are part of that. I actually think is super interesting how that's changing.
Yeah, man. That's a really deep question. I think that it's kind of weird. Like we are expecting the people that we're preparing to go have human interactions with less and less human interactions. Like,
Yeah.
hey, instead of me as your manager sitting down and coaching you on these calls, now I'm going to give you an AI that's just going to coach you on these calls. And now go do it with a person when you've been doing it with a computer. Like, I don't know, man. That's some deep stuff. How would I think about that? I
Yeah, I
think it
mean,
makes me rethink a couple things.
you guys, and I said I wouldn't do too much of, history stuff, but you have been known in multiple places, but when you were in Seattle, the culture you built at Outreach, I feel like was really legendary. I don't know. It
Well,
felt like that from the outside.
it was
Yeah.
special, dude. It was special.
Yeah, and so much of that was, I don't know, maybe you could tell me why it was what you did to make it so special, but it was like this high achieving, high energy, very loyal group of people. And like, are we gonna lose that? Like, what did you do to build that? And are we gonna lose that going into the future with organizations? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think I don't know how I've wandered my way to this, but I do feel like I am good at getting people to trust me. And I think as a leader, when people trust you and they know that you really care, and I think that's one of the things is like I actually enjoy people. And
Mhm.
I don't just enjoy when it's fun. I enjoy helping them through when it's bad. And I do care, and honestly, like, I have a therapist right now. I have a little bit of a codependency issue, and I think in some ways that can help you in leadership and hurt you, and I think I've really figured out how to maximize how it helps me. I'm trying currently to figure out how to minimize how it hurts me. But, I think that, like, that's just my personality type and who I am as a person, and I think what that did is when people trust you, when they know you care, when they feel that stuff out, when you go to ask them to do crazy things, they're more likely to do it, and when those crazy things more often than not pay off for them, then there becomes this kind of cycle, and that's what happened at Outreach where I was just like, "Listen, this is we're gonna do this. I know it's weird. Hey, we're gonna do this. Like, I know I've never sold software and you say it's wrong, but like this is what I think." And doing that over time, I think I had a few people that started with me in the beginning that trusted me a ton. They did it, they got success, and then that kind of naturally or organically spread out. And the people that were unwilling to have that kind of relationship with me and how I did things, they eventually would fall off and feel like they weren't part of the crowd or whatever. That wasn't true. The issue is they weren't willing to engage in the culture that we had, and we
Mhm.
were always open to adding new and expanding and changing the culture. But you had to engage with it first. You can't change culture without engaging with it first, right? It's like trying to change a relationship without the person being a friend. Doesn't make any sense. So that's what was special about Outreach. And then we just ended up with a whole bunch of people that really cared about their sales game and just were maniacal. This is nuts. But and when I was in Seattle, when I first got there, for some reason my clock didn't reset, and all of a sudden I was getting up at like 4:45 a.m. and like
Yeah.
getting into the office at 6 a.m. And I'm like, I'm not a morning person. Like, what's going on here? I think it was just the excitement and everything. And it was just me and Steve Ross, my head of SDRs in the beginning at 6 a.m. One of us would be pulling in right before the other. I beat you, right? And then all of a sudden, by the time I left, like 2.5 years later, during COVID, there would be like between 25 and 30 people in there at
It's
that time
unreal.
with us. Yeah, and we wouldn't be working. We were just like talking about deals and hey, listen, and let's listen to this call. Like listen to Mark's weirdo music that he listens to and all this kind of stuff. And I think that was just when you have that much of your sales team caring that much and like progressing that fast and making that much money. And then the last little magic dust sprinkle is when you have a transformative product that has true product market fit. When you put all that together, man, it makes something pretty special. It's pretty awesome.
I can like, yeah, I feel that just hearing you talk about it. Back to that trust part, and I'm like merging these like concepts because I'm curious like to get your thoughts. You've got on one hand, I think what in my experience of what you're describing, like the key is creating that relationship between the leader, the team, like the people who are actually selling, like the belief, and that's founded on this element of like caring
Mhm.
and wanting them to be successful and all these things. And then you have on the other hand, like okay, how can I automate away or how can I automate as many of those layers as possible, right? And it's like, to me, the dystopian version is like, that's very cold and robotic and not great. Like, how do we like merge, my opinion is that somehow we've got to take these great people leaders, we've got to give them as much of the tools and the automation and the intelligence that will make them even more, able to lead more people more effectively and be better at intervention and better at dynamically coaching them or whatever. Like, what's your take, or do you have a different opinion?
No, I think I have the same opinion. I have something I say to reps all the time and managers too, which is this is to me the domino effect of people leaving a company because they don't like their manager. And it always gets blamed on bad manager, but I don't think that that's accurate. What it should get blamed on is the rep. And this is why. And I know that sounds a little harsh, but this is
That's
why.
a interesting. That's a little hot take. Yeah, break it down.
So when a rep can't verbalize or talk about what they need help with, a manager has to guess what they need help with. When they guess wrong most of the time. And then they have the rep do a whole bunch of work that doesn't help them out. And now trust is broken. And now the rep doesn't trust the manager to be able to help them anymore. And now I leave my job because my manager sucks. And when it all
Interesting.
starts with the rep doesn't either ask, share, they're scared because oh my God, I suck at negotiation, but I don't want my manager to know.
Yeah.
Or they're like, I don't know, I suck at negotiation, so I didn't know to ask. And I think that's what this AI stuff unlocks in my mind is we can start to see so many more patterns. We can start to see
Yeah.
so much more data. And we should be able to go to a rep and be like, hey, listen, I ran an agent and I just looked on your last 10 deals. It looks like your discounting rate is okay, but actually you had one deal where you did so good, it skewed all the other ones. And all these other deals said that you're actually bad. We would never would have caught that in the past. Now we
Yeah.
can catch it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with you on negotiations and show you how to get better at it. And now the rep knows while they're working on it, they believe it. There's hopefully the manager knows what they're talking about because that's always if they don't, then that's never going to work out, right? And now that should lead to improvement if that rep is coachable. And so now there's more trust, and so the next time it comes around, that all happens faster, better, more fun, more effective. And you do that 2 or 3 revs, boy, you're cooking with gas.
I think that's a great example even because I actually one of the things we find is that the process of that happening, like you talk about like therapy, like a lot of orgs I don't think have correctly allocated the space for that to happen, if that makes sense. It's like the
Mm.
way that intervention happens is like, after the quarter is over and you look at the numbers and you're like, dude, what was it? Like, why'd you throw this number up and miss by this? Or, it's like, it's all in arrears. It's all looking like in the rear view. And to your point, now you can be in in the moment intervening or all along the path. But I think, like you said, you have to have the space and the process to be doing that. The other part that I worry about, and I'm curious how you have done this in your career and like in the orgs you've built, but like so many of the managers that we deal with, which is thousands of them, they were just the best rep before. And they were the
Yeah.
best they were the best rep for like a variety of reasons. Like could be anything. Could be that they're, you know, the smartest person or the most charismatic, or they had just 2 great quarters in a row. And so it was like, cool, Mark, you want to be manager now? Like, you're like, all right, great, you get a bump. But how do you like, I think they're woefully under invested in, I guess is probably the way I'd put it. How have you approached that? How have you thought about that?
Yeah, I think that you're right. Good reps become bad managers. There's two huge changes in a sales career. One is rep to manager. You're doing it's a totally different job. It's a complete change. The other one is manager to executive. That's another totally different job that I had to learn. So when I think about people going from rep to manager, I think what we have to prepare them for, and it's funny, I used to have this talk a lot at Outreach where we would be like hiring people and have to hire 5 new managers in a year. And it was a lot of people that wanted to go in that direction. It would be like, first of all, like, what do you actually want to do? Like,
Mhm.
do you want to help people or you want to make money? Because you're going to make more money as a rep. Do you want to help people? You're going to do that you can do that as a rep and a manager. And like, it's like, really, what do you want? What do you like? And why do you think that the career path has to go manager? I'll give you a perfect example of this is my best rep. Uh, and this will be a controversial concept with the top 5 or 6 or 7 of them. But my
Yeah.
my best rep in this conversation is a guy named Riley Devine at Outreach. And Riley, I would always be like, dude, we need to get you to manager. He'd be like, no. I'd be like, dude, what about this? No. I'd be like, why not? He goes, dude, I work like 20 hours a week and I'm making like 7 to 800K a year. Why would I mess that up? What I want out of life is freedom, and
Yeah.
manage it makes me lose my freedom. And I'm like, huh, all right, dude, let me get you some more BDR support and just load you up. And he literally would call me and be like, Mark, I need blood on my teeth, man. My teeth are white right now. Make them red. Give me some of them leads. And literally we would like give him more leads when he asked for that because he was unbelievable in cycle time, win rates, deal size. He just was unbelievable. But and to his credit, he was one of those reps that if you called him and asked him for help, anybody, anywhere, he would be like, let me coach you how to do this. Look at this. I can help you with this deal. So he was kind of helping me in a manager thing, even though he didn't want that responsibility. And so that's the first thing is what do you really want?
Yeah.
And most people don't really want that manager role. You're going to make less money and do more work. But if you get like me, a lot of zhuzh out of helping
Yeah.
people is where I got to be.
Yeah.
Then once you move that, then it goes into the skills and what are those skills? And we have to help you develop those skills because the skills you have as a seller aren't the skills you need as a manager.
I think that the skill part and the training and in our world, there are organizations that are fantastic about that. And these are orgs at scale and they've got, you know, hundreds of managers. And it blows my mind because I'm like, God, to your point, like I know a large majority of them are best reps, worst managers. Best rep, worst manager. And it's at like a scale that's mind boggling. All right, I'm gonna get you out with one more question, Mark, and then we'll let you run and get back to your day. So we talked about like, this change, the different like points that are getting emphasized across, the project side, the people part. Like where do you when you come into an organization and you're like, all right, I've got people, I've got process, I've got tools. What is your thing where you're like, here's where I need to spend the most time to make sure things are going to start working the way I expect them to or the way I want them to?
100% unequivocally process. Everything begins with me for process, and it's for a strange reason. It's not because I am a very process driven person, but the reason is because of this. I have a personality deficit. I am extremely forgetful. Like literally, if I don't do the exact steps in the exact order after I get out of the shower, I will forget to both brush my teeth and put on deodorant. And therefore, if you measure me from the time I get out of the shower to the time I leave the bathroom, literally there's probably a 3-second derivation between like all of the things that I do. And so my personal bent is if there's not a process, you're forgetting important parts of what you should be doing. And the process is there to help you remind you to make sure that you always follow best practices to get the best outcome with the least amount of effort. And so I always start there. That's easy for me though, because I'm going to just take care of the people stuff. Like, the people thing is just how I am. It's funny. My enterprise sales team, I just met a lot of them for the first time at our sales kickoff. Now, I've met some of them in deals and all that, but like that's the first time they got to see me kind of being me. And up to that point, there was a healthy dose of skepticism in that team of this guy isn't really like this. He's just kind of putting on a show. But then when we sat down and had drinks at this, when we like rode on the bus to the little fun event thing we were doing, when we sat like and played darts together, everything, they had a team meeting afterwards, and their leader called me and she was like, "Hey, Mark, you won them." I'm like, "What do you mean I won them?" She's like, "They think they now understand you, and they know that you are just you." And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, they can go out to dinner with my kids. They can come over and watch me mow my grass. They can like help me do laundry. Kosoglow is Kosoglow all the time. I'm just generally an energy engine. I'm generally positive. I'm trying to be funny and make jokes. I'm going to hold you accountable, but I'm going to try to help you get there because I care. And I think like the people stuff for me kind of takes care of itself because I just am who I am and I am very comfortable with it. And if you don't like it, it's not going to jive because I'm not going to change. But the process part, like to me, that's the multiplier, the exponential increase is people are doing things a million different ways, which means your data is not interpretable because when everybody's doing something different, win rate doesn't mean win rate because everybody's doing it differently, as an example.
Yeah, and I'm assuming when you to, like, ask one follow-up question back to our, like, chart that we were drawing with our hands, that's, like, the external process, but also the internal process and all the points in between, right? Like, all that is giving you signals about what's happening, what's good, what the expectations are.
Yeah. And like you don't like the process isn't always like how does a lead route through all these things. Like I have a process here that I call 10 labs and I have my leaders identify the absolute best of the best people in my GTM org. It's about 35 people. And I want those people to have a more impact on what we do, have more say, have more whatever. And so 10 labs is a program I run and every quarter I have small group meetings where I meet with like 7 to 10 people. We have an hour-long discussion. They just bitch at me about stuff, and literally I go fix it while we're in the meeting. And like
Yeah.
I just did one of these, and I fixed 4 things that were causing my top performers issues within a week. And I send them an update every single time I do that. Then I have a meet with our CFO and go through. Hey, do you want to see how the CFO interpreted our quarterly earnings? Do you want to see like how the plan matched the earnings? Do you want to get and that one goes awesome. I have a meet with my product guy and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to show you the roadmap of the roadmap. Like, how do y'all think about this?" I have a meet with our CEO and our CEO is like, "Hey, open time. And so we set all that up. We give them more access and more stuff. That's a people thing, but it's a process. And
Yeah.
so make your people stuff process stuff too.
Well, and people buy into that. Like people buy into you investing your time and the effort to change those things. And then the retention and the commitment and the emotional connection is way bigger. That's awesome. I feel like people for the revenue leaders, team leaders out there who are watching, those are like immediately stealable tips they could be running.
I mean, it's not easy because you got to wrangle a bunch of calendars together and all that stuff. But honestly, it's nothing wild. I'm just like, my best people need more impact. How do I get them more impact? Is I bring them into what's going on more, and then and like here's the ultimate version of this is I recently had somebody that was like, "Mark, I'd like to share some stuff with you that I feel like uncomfortable with." And this person got on a call with me and he's like, "Listen, we've had a couple people leave. We've had this happen and this happen." He's like, "I'm so excited about what we're doing, but there's chatter that people are nervous." He's like, "I need you. I just want you to know. I know you'll know what to do with this." He's like, "I trust you." And boy, we put together 3 or 4 things that I think got the was a nervous energy turned into an excitement. But if you don't have that relationship, you don't get your canary in the coal mine. You don't get that person that feels comfortable saying stuff to you. And I have like 3 or 4 or 5 of those throughout my GTM work now. And that's how they're chatting about this. and I would never have heard it, but it's an issue, and I wanna get in there and deal with it. And but when people see that, and I specifically in the meeting, I was like, listen, I'm gonna tell you why this meeting's happening. Somebody had the guts to call me and say, Mark, things aren't going the way that you think they are, and this is what you like. These are some things I think you can do to help. This is why we're having this meeting. Please help me with that. Now that people see that, I'll get a couple more and a couple more, and eventually I'll have all my little canaries in the coal mine that are helping me understand the things I need to understand, but people are nervous or too busy or just don't feel comfortable sharing them or they can't verbalize it. And that's when you really feel like you're building an awesome team that is all in it for each other because they're all looking out and making sure that, I'm doing the things I need to do to make their peers and the people they work with feel awesome about the job that they're doing.
I love that. I love that. That's a great program story process. Well, Mark, I sincerely have enjoyed hanging out. I miss seeing you. Hopefully, I'll see you at an event soon. Where can people find you online? Where should they connect with you?
Uh, listen, I'm still on LinkedIn. I don't post every day anymore. Just job's too busy now, but I still post like 2 or 3 times a week. And if you DM me, I almost always respond. Can't always do what you ask, but I'll at least respond and try to help a little bit.
That's great stuff, man. Mark Kosoglow, is great talking to you. Thanks so much for being on the Sales Operator Series. I'm Brian Trautschold. Thanks, everyone.